Welcome to day 3 of Grammar Bootcamp. Today we're looking at complements. And there's two basic formulas that I like to use for complements. What we say here is subject plus action verb equals the direct object or indirect object. Subject plus linking verb equals a predicate nominative or predicate adjective. All right, so on these, your 4 complements are these over here. Now, everything is all predicated on what kind of verb you have. If you have an action verb, then these are your only 2 options. If you have a linking verb, then these are your only 2 options. So another way of putting this in a flow would be in a sentence, you look at your subject. Once you find your subject, then you're going to find your verb, and you're going to ask yourself, is it action or is it linking? And so you divide it off. If it is an action verb, well then you're going to be looking for a direct object first, and then if it has an indirect object, then it'll be there. If it is a linking verb, then it could either be a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective. And we'll get to those in a little bit as far as what they are. But the biggest thing is making sure that you know what kind of verb you're dealing with here. All right, so make sure that you have this written down, because these formulas are going to be very important as we go through the video. So let's do some examples here. All right, so we've got direct objects and indirect objects. Notice here it says the direct object is a noun, pronoun, or word group that tells who or what receives the action of the verb. Okay, it's going to answer these 2 questions. Who or what receives the action of the verb? All right, so it's just like if you had the subject and you have this action verb and we have a wall here. Okay, if I threw a ball and that was my action here, this wall is going to directly receive that action. Okay, so that would be our direct object. Okay, and a little bit later when we get to our indirect objects, we'll notice that whenever it bounces back halfway, that's when we'll hit our indirect object, because it indirectly receives the action. So let's take a look at this real quick and see if we have a direct object first. So we always go through, and when we label our sentences, we got to find our subject. Okay. Number 1, we've got the novel. That's our subject. The novel does what? Well, it offers. That is an action verb. So I have subject plus action verb. I'm looking for a direct object. So I'm going to ask myself who or what. So the novel offers who or what? Well, the novel offers the adventure. That's what the novel actually offers. It doesn't offer readers, it offers an adventure. Now, when we get to our indirect object and you go, okay, well, who does the novel offer adventure to? Well, it offers it to the readers. So that's our indirect object. So basically, the action travels, hits the direct object, comes back to the indirect object. Now, one thing that will help us a little bit later on is we need to find prepositional phrases to get rid of them first. Prepositional phrase will always start with a preposition, and then it'll end with our object of preposition. And the key thing to remember is that we're not going to find a subject or a direct object or an indirect object or really anything major in our sentence inside that prepositional phrase. Okay, it's not going to happen. So we might as well just go ahead and find those and get rid of them, and then we could move on to find our major components. So let's do number 2 and show you this one. If I go through and find my direct object, or not my direct object, if I go through and find the prepositional phrase, I've got in the novel, and I have on a ship. So see, look what we have left over. I've got a poor boy finds himself a captive. All right, so by eliminating these, I don't have to look inside there. I can find my subject, which would be a poor boy. There's my subject. Boy finds. There's my action verb. So the boy finds what? What does he find? He finds a captive. All right. Ship here is our underlined. Our instructions say that to label the underlined part. So ship would be, since it's inside a prepositional phrase, that'd be our OP, or object of the preposition. Let's try number 3. Let's find our prepositional phrases and get rid of them. So of the ship, and I've got for him. So that's out. If you notice that him is underlined, so since it's inside a prepositional phrase, it always starts with the preposition and ends with the object of the preposition. And just for kicks, we'll go ahead and label the rest of it. So captain, subject. The captain does what? The captain forces. So that's our action verb. So subject plus action verb, I'm looking for a direct object. So captain forces what? Well, he forces the prisoner. That's our direct object. To work would be an infinitive. We'll come to that later. All right, how about number 4? I'm looking for prepositional phrases. I don't see any. So let's go on to find our subject. We've got he brings is an action verb. So subject plus an action verb. I'm looking for a direct object. So he brings what? What exactly is he bringing? Well, he's bringing food and supplies. Now notice he's not bringing the captain. He's not literally picking up the captain and bringing him somewhere. So you can't say that. That doesn't complete that verb. So he brings food and supplies. Now we ask the question, to whom does he bring the food and supplies? And that would be the captain. So the action travels and then comes back. Okay? Let's go on down here to the bottom ones here. Notice all these are still dealing with action verbs. So with action verbs, we're looking for the direct object first, and then if it has an indirect object, then we'll look for that afterwards, because it's all based on that action verb. So number 6, Charlotte and I gave our Dalmatian a puppy. All right, I don't see any prepositional phrases, so we're going to go to our subject, which is Charlotte and I. And what did they do? Well, they gave. There's your action verb. So Charlotte and I gave who or what? You got to think, what did they actually give? They gave a bath. Who'd they give the bath to? They gave it to the puppy. That's our indirect object. So again, you're asking that question of exactly what did they give. Okay, they didn't give the puppy, they gave the bath. And who'd they give the bath to? They gave it to the puppy. So the action travels and then comes back. Okay, I'm not following the instructions up here on when we're talking about underlining and stuff like that. I'm just going to keep labeling. All right, we'll just do a couple more. Eartha told Kim and me a secret. Where in the world they came up with the name Eartha, I have no idea. I don't see any prepositional phrases. So Eartha is our subject. Told. Eartha told what? Like what exactly came out of their mouth? What did they say? Eartha told the secret. Who did they tell the secret to? To Kim and me. So I actually have 2 indirect objects here. Okay? All right, so again, all these are dealing with action verbs. So what happens if you have a linking verb? Well, that changes our outcome, because now we are looking for a predicate nominative and a predicate adjective. Okay? The only difference is nominative means basically noun, and adjective, well, no joke, it means, well, if I could spell, it means adjective. Okay, so noun and adjective, that's the only difference here. So let me show you how this works. All right, remember predicate nominative is a word or word group that is in the predicate and identifies the subject or refers to it. So it either identifies it or it refers to it. The adjective, predicate adjective, all it does is basically describe the subject. So I mentioned before that a linking verb acts like an equal sign. So it's like A equals B and B equals A. Well, we could easily say that the subject equals the predicate if we have a linking verb. Okay, and the difference here is in the predicate, you either have a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective. And what they do is basically about the same. The predicate nominative will go back to the subject and just rename it, say it's the same thing. The predicate adjective will also go back to the subject, but it will just describe it. Let me show you what I mean. So like right here, the bag with the bowling ball in it felt heavy. Again, I'm still not going to use prepositional phrases, so with the bowling ball and in it, all right, I don't have to worry about those. So I have the bag felt heavy. All right, so the bag is my subject. What's my verb? Felt. All right, now felt is one of your five senses, and that's where it could go either way. So we have to ask ourselves, is the bag doing this literal action, or is it just a state of being? Is the bag feeling anything? No, I sure hope not. So the bag here is just a state of being. The bag felt heavy. Linking verb, so subject plus linking verb. What part of speech is heavy? Well, it's an adjective, so we call it a predicate adjective. And look what it does. What is heavy in the sentence? What's it describing? It's coming back and describing that subject. The bag felt heavy. So again, these are why they're called subject complements, is because they go back and they complement the subject. They go and describe or rename that subject. Okay, let me do number 3. The dog seemed eager to see us. Okay, dog seemed is our linking verb. Okay, eager. That's not a noun, it's an adjective. So that is our predicate adjective. Who was eager? The dog was eager. Okay, so it's just like saying the dog equals eager. It's the same thing. All right, let's do number 5, just because I don't want to draw over other stuff. Let's get rid of our prepositional phrases. At the local high school, of the football team. So I've got our next door neighbor. Neighbor is our subject. Is our linking verb. Okay, that's one of your more common ones. If you remember, is, am, are, be, was, and were. Is, am, are, be, was, were. Those are your main common linking verbs. So here's one right there. So neighbor is what? What is the neighbor? He's a teacher. That's a noun. So we call that a predicate nominative. But he's not just a teacher, he's also a coach. So that's your other predicate nominative. So I've got 2 predicate nominatives. And look at what they do. They go back to the subject and they rename. They rename the subject. So predicate adjectives describe the subject. Predicate nominatives rename the subject. The neighbor is the teacher is the neighbor. It's the same person. That's pretty much how it all works. Just, again, key in with this verb. You got to make sure that you know which verb you're dealing with, because that changes the outcome. Okay? Remember, subject plus action verb equals the direct object or indirect object. Subject plus a linking verb equals a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective. So I hope this helps. I'll try to put together some more stuff a little bit later, but this should at least get you started.